Hello YouTube, this is Brian Tubbs coming back at you with another video. This will be part 2 of the video we shot, yesterday or whenever it was, on the blocks. I went ahead, like in the last video I said, I went ahead and just welded everything up. I don't want to bore you guys with welding it up. I just MIG welded it. Just stitch welded it all the way up. And what I'm focusing on now in this video is the base for this piece. I guess we'll call it blocks. So what I came up with is a kind of a V-shape design. It looks like this. So what I came up with is from this point to this point is 16 inches. From this point to this point is 12 inches across. And I took it up 8 inches from this point to this point. And from this point at the bottom of the V to here is 2 inches. And it rises up from there 6 inches. Because I found on the blocks, right about that 6-inch point would be like the strong point when I set the blocks down in here. I was debating about having, just a really short base where it would weld to the sides of the blocks down here, but I just didn't think that would be strong enough. And this is just going to go on the very bottom block underneath. So this whole sculpture is going to sit on this V base, and this V base is going to sit on a 20 by 20 3/8 plate. It'll be welded down to that plate, and then we'll have, of course, have the holes bored into the plate so you can bolt it down when you get it into the final, location where it's going to be, displayed. And this will just, I'm talking about that very bottom block, but I'm just using this as an example. So that very bottom block will sit in the V like that. And I figured, being from this point here to here is 6 inches, I figured that would be deep enough to get the best stability for these blocks so they won't flex back and forth. And the other thing I came up with is that the bottom block on one side had a, I think it was 11 gauge core 10 plate on the bottom, while the rest of this is 16 gauge, because initially I was going to set these blocks in a flat position. They wouldn't be like this. Everything would be turned just like a normal shape. They wouldn't be on an angle like this. They're just going to be just stacked going up, in a flat position. So I just put a plate on the bottom on this side underneath. But then when I put it in this position, I had to kind of throw that idea out the door. And so what I had to do is put a plate on the other side of the blocks as well. So there'll be a plate on this side, and there'll be a plate on that side. So when those blocks sit in, they won't kind of move back and forth in that base, because on the one side I had 11 gauge, and on the other side I had the thin 16 gauge, which was just, the blocks would almost want to collapse on that side if the wind blows. So I just put a plate on both sides down here where they would sit in here, so there will be no movement, no flex, because it will just be solidly welded. So this, I'll just call it a V block. I could have had this going just straight up out here, but I just want to just add a little bit of interest, so I put them on a slight angle, and I just call it V block. And so with that, I went ahead and cut the pieces out. I don't want you guys to have to see me doing that. I mean, that's very just basic. I just put it on the table, took this pattern and laid it on the metal and just traced the pattern, and then just cut it out with the plasma cutter. And let me show you guys. It's not finished at all. Just tacked it in a couple spots just so I can show you guys. And this is what it's going to look like. This is a 1/4 inch plate on the V section, but on this side, I guess this would be the left side, right side, it'll be 3/16 plates. And then this will sit on top of a 3/8 plate base, you know, flat base, and the sculpture will just go up from here. I've just tacked this side on. I haven't attached this other side yet. So I'll just kind of do that in the video. Just kind of let you guys see what I'm doing. So this is it. This thing weighs, at this point, about 20 pounds already without putting another side on. So I'm gonna go ahead and set it up on the table just so you guys can see how I kind of fixture it in, and I'll just put some tacks on it just so you guys can see, you know, how I do this. Okay guys, I'm back. So what I'm doing is I just have it the way I started it. I took this wall, put it against these uprights. And if you guys remember, if you saw the video on I think it was, well, I don't know if I may have called it welding up fixture clamps. I don't remember exactly what it is. I'll put the thumbnail up. But I got these from Certiflat, and they're uprights that go on your table. And then I made these pins. These pins go through the hole here in the fixture, and then it goes through the table. And this is the back pin that I made that goes in the back hole to keep it from like twisting, so it won't move. So I have it kind of bolted down at the front, just gently bolted down, and then this pin goes in the back hole to keep it from like moving around. So that's how I set this up. So I just stood this up against this this upright, and then I took these Harbor Freight clamps. I showed you guys how I made them in the video. I was making showing you guys how I make the clamps. I just took these, stuck it in one of these holes in the fixture, slid it down, and just locked it to that wall, and tightened it up until the wall locked right to this this upright. So I did it twice. I did it on that side, then I did the same thing on this side. Just got it in, and just locked it in. And that I made sure. Hold on, let me bring this out just a little bit. All right, there we go. And I made sure that this was standing vertically. It wasn't leaning that back or forward, because I don't want, when I get it welded up, to be leaning one way or the other. So I put these on. And then if you guys remember these side clamps, they look like stops. I mean, these are the stops here. If I'm working on a piece and I don't want it to move, I would put it in one of the holes, and I will have the piece butted up to that, and I'll keep it from rolling. If I'm clamping on one side, it won't allow the piece to move on the table. So these are stops. And these, I call them like a side stop, or they're basically a side stop, but they adjust to put more pressure on the what it is you're welding. So I took these, I have two of these on the back side, and I had them pushing against this plate, and this plate was inside of here, and I just took these side clamps and just smashed these two pieces together, and that's how I get everything lined up. Then I just tacked this back side. I think I had like 4 tacks on here or something, but I wanted to show you guys how I did it so I didn't weld the whole thing up. So in this video I'll be doing a little bit more welding on it, but I just want you guys to see how I did it. So if you're ever making a sculpture like this, I mean, it won't be exactly like this, but similar. You'll know how to do it. And what I could have gone with 5/16 or 3/8 plate to make these the size, but that wasn't necessary. I figured 1/4 inch would be thick enough. And when I cut these V's out in the plasma cutter, I made sure when I didn't cut them out at the same time. I cut this side out, kept going back and forth to the blocks, sliding it up. I'll show you. Just sliding it up on the block, making sure that the block set in there almost perfectly. I don't want to have any big gaps on either side, and I want to be sure that the block would sit down in here. So I played with this, played around with this, and got it to where I thought it should be. Then I took this, laid it on some 1/4 inch plate I had, traced it with my marker, and then cut it out, and then I just worked my way onto the plate, just making sure everything was pretty good and lined up fairly well. And then I made the cutting and finished grinding it and all that. And then I took this plate, laid it on top of the metal, traced this with my marker, and then had a second idea, why don't I just clamp it to that piece. Then I took my plasma cutter and just cut it out as I traced that one. And then when I got finished doing that, I just clamped the two pieces together, took my grinder, and just followed this side to that side, almost perfectly. Because when I put them together, I want them to be, square and all that stuff. So when I put them on those blocks, it won't be any moving around on the blocks. So what I'm going to do is just bring the camera in a little bit closer and give you guys more of a tighter view so you can just kind of see how I'm putting everything in, lining everything up. All right, let me move this camera. All right, so I put the side clamp in, put it in this hole here. It doesn't matter, I can put it in any hole. It's clamped to this upright. So it's clamped to this upright here. Then I just slide this plate in here. Just get it kind of lined up as best I can. Then I'm taking this I'll try this piece of metal here, just put it in there, because there's a little gap here. Because, I mean, I could have moved everything in closer, but I just kind of didn't. So where this hole is, I just put a this little thing here just to get it a little bit tighter. So when I clamp this down, it'll be more snug. So let me get this in here, try and get to stand properly. Let me go ahead and see if I can clamp it down. All right, get that in. So I just clamped it here. Let me check the gap on this side. Everything looks pretty good. I'm going to be MIG welding this, so I don't want that exactly flush. I want to have this portion raised a little bit higher than that edge. So when I weld, I'll have a little groove to weld into. If I was TIG welding it, I would just line it up, flush and just go from there. But this is not necessary to TIG weld. Go ahead and tighten it up a little bit more. And so this will be welded across here to the lower plate and all the way, down the sides here to the plate. So all the way around it'll be welded to that base plate. And I will stitch weld it because I don't want that base plate, to move in any way. I want it to stay flat. All right, let me go ahead and put a couple of tacks on here. Get my gloves on. And guys, if you don't have a fixture table, that's fine. Just do your best to make sure, the table is, as flat as possible. And if your table is kind of warped, what I did for a long time is I just went to the metal supply and just got a flat piece of, 1/4-inch plate or 5/16 or 3/8 plate, so you can set it on top of your welding table. So when you need to have something, flat, you can just weld on top of that plate. And then when you're done with the plate, you just take the plate and just set it off to the side and just continue, doing your normal welds on your welding table. But that's what I did for a long time. All right, here we go. All right, so I just put just 4 tacks on here, and I think what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and tack it up some more spots. Then I can release it from these clamps, and then I can go ahead and just kind of weld it up. I just want to keep it fixtured until I'm sure that I'm more sure that it's welded up better. I don't want to just take it out and just start welding it up and thing tweak on me. I'm gonna put a few more tacks in here. Yeah, I feel pretty good with that. I'll take it out and spin it around. Feels pretty good. No movement at all. It's not wobbling at all. All right, put a few more tacks on this side. And with these welds, I will not be grinding them off. I'm gonna leave the welds there because the blocks have the same, weld pattern. I didn't grind the welds off or anything on the blocks either. Okay, what I'll be doing now is just stitching these welds in, going down the line. All right, here we go. And there's a little groove here where the two pieces come together. Right in here, I'm just trying to stay in that groove. Nothing like special. I just want it to look good. Just going right on top of the previous weld by about maybe a quarter of the weld, something like that. Try not to leave any gaps between the welds. It's just for presentation. Okay, got that one. Let me get this one. This is not difficult stuff, guys. But if you do this right, stitching, it looks really good. It looks like when you drop dimes, when you TIG welding, as they call it. But don't get this confused with this new, they call it cold weld technique, where you just barely pulling the trigger. Now with this, I can see the weld melting into the metal, and it's laying almost flat. So these welds are not standing up tall. So what I'm doing is I'm burning these in. It's like I'm welding just a long bead where you would see the little bubble in the puddle. I can see that, but then I come off the trigger after I see it. So when I say that I'm tacking or stitching, I'm actually really welding the metal in. It's not just little gentle tack. It's actually being welded in. But I'm just doing it one weld at a time, just one bead at a time. Or each time I pull the trigger, it's burning in completely. It's not this little dent, 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 dent. No, it's dent. I'm pulling the trigger and I'm holding it until I see that metal, that weld melt into that metal. Because this is, when you're dealing with sculptures and stuff like that, you can't just do the cold weld technique, because this thing could collapse. There's a video, if I can find it, I'll put a link to it or a thumbnail up so you can see it. There was this 4,000-pound sculpture that someone driving a SUV or van or whatever it was hit the sculpture and knocked the sculpture off the base, and the thing went rolling down the street. A 4,000-pound round sculpture rolled down the street. It didn't go very far, but it rolled down the street. It could have hit and killed someone because the artist, whoever it was, I don't remember their name, didn't weld the sculpture to the base properly. And you can't screw around with a 4,000-pound sculpture with a couple cold welds holding it to the base. You should have spent just as much time welding that thing to the base as you did putting the whole darn thing together. And in the video you can see, I think there was like 4 or 5 little tack welds going from the base to the sculpture. After the darn thing came loose from the base. Here's a peek. So guys, when you do this, just think safety as much as you can. Like I said, I'm just going right on top of the weld before, and I'm burning it in. And the metal is like they're just melting together. Now I will show you what they call like I guess they call it like a cold weld. It'd be like, now that's garbage. That is not what I'm doing here. I'm burning in. Don't ever do that with a sculpture like this. Never. You burn in. You can count to 1001. 1001. 1001. 1001. You can even go 1002. Your weld will just be a little bit taller. Because you don't want to ever get a phone call or some customer or law enforcement or someone saying that your sculpture fell off the base and hurt someone or killed someone. So when I'm putting these things together, that is what I'm thinking about. How should I build the base? You know, how wide the base should be. I talked about that in another video I shot not long ago. About, you know, the size and the thickness of metal and all that stuff when it comes to your bases. And no, I'm not perfect. Don't know it all. I know very little actually. But what I do know, I share with you guys, because I do not want you guys to get into some trouble. You know, because a sculpture fell off of a base and hurt someone or killed someone. All right. Let me bring this camera up so you guys can see. Okay. Get my gloves on. I grabbed a wire brush so I can just kind of clean some of this off. And so you guys can just kind of see this. What I have to do next is get my grinder and just knock off any of the spatter on here, which is very little. And with your fixture table, what you can do, spray a chemical. I'll show you the chemical. It's a pink liquid. It's anti-spatter, and what this is used for is when you're just say, for example, if I didn't want the spatter to stick to this metal, I would have took some of that and sprayed it on here, let it sit for a minute or two, then I would have started welding, and the spatter would not have, stuck to this metal, because with that being on here, when the spatter hits the metal, it causes the spatter to basically douse, like dousing a flame, and so the spatter is not hot enough to melt into the metal. But like it is now, I mean, it's just sitting on top of the metal because this is really thick metal. If had this been like a thinner, like a 16 gauge or something, it could have almost burned holes in it, or would have left like indents in the metal. But with this, I can probably just take this. Yep. Most of it just came off just like that. And so again, when I say I'm stitching or tacking, I'm not cold tacking like they do, like no, I'm not doing that. I'm burning it in almost to the point of it's just like it's a weld. Let me see here. So this is kind of what the welds look like. Closer up, they're welded in. It's not some pretty little zump, 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 zump. And now if you can see, let me see here. On the inside, if you can see in there, you can see it. You can see the haze coming through from the heat. So that lets you know that the weld got through it. It is penetrating through. So this thing is pretty heavy. So that's what the V portion looks like. I'll weld it up. And like I said, I'm gonna leave the weld, so I'll just clean them up a little bit. And then this will just slide right under the sculpture will just slide right down in there. And then this will be set on top of a 3/8 plate. Let me show you guys the plate just quickly. This thing is heavy. But this is the plate, and you can see the thickness of it. It's 20 by 20 and probably weighs a good 80 pounds, somewhere in there, something like that. And so I just have to drill the holes in that plate on the four corners. Then I will set this on top of that plate, get it all lined up, squared up, even on every side, and then I'll start just stitch welding or my tack welding it in. But I'm gonna kick the volts and wire speed up on my welder to deal with the 3/8 plate, because with the 1/4 inch and the 3/16, the setting I had it at was fine, but with the 3/8 me burning that in, I'm gonna have to go a little bit hotter just to make sure it's burned in, you know, properly. So I think that's gonna do it for this video, because it's gonna take a while to just get everything, you know, set up. So I might continue this video on, or I might just have to cut it and maybe just show you guys the final result, you know, when I get everything all, you know, set up and done. Let me think here for a second. I'm just trying to think which is the best way to go. Should I weld the V to the plate, or should I weld the V to the block first? Let me think about it for a minute. You know, I think what I'll do is just go ahead and weld this V to the block, or at least get it started, just so you guys can see what I'm doing, and I can just set the whole thing on the ground after I'm done, and set the piece on it and just go ahead and weld that on. But I'll just kind of just show you guys how I'm going to do this. Okay guys, I got it kind of just laying on the table here. I haven't like set anything up or anything like that. But what I have to do now is just kind of just find center, forward and back, this way, that way, just so when I start welding, everything is lined up and that kind of thing. And what I have to do, also I have to remember to put a hole in the bottom of this plate for drainage. And I'm also going to put a hole, I left one of these side walls a little bit high, just a little bit high, so when I weld it I can leave a little gap there, so when moisture builds up, it'll have a place to run out, and you want to just have moisture sitting inside of this V block. Pretty sweet name, V block. So for now I just need to just get a ruler and just start measuring, because this is 20 and this should be somewhere close to 7. Let me see. Yep. You're right at 7. It's actually 6 15/16. Both sides, so it's perfectly, you know, lined up, which is nice. So let me grab a ruler. And just kind of start doing a little calculation here. Okay. So 20 minus 7. 20 minus 7 is what, 13? 20 minus 7, 13. Half of 13 is 6.5. So if I go 6.5 over here, I might be right and I might be off. Go 16 here. 6.5 here. 6.5 here. So I should be fairly close on this side. I am about a 1/16 off. Wow, that was easy. So now 20 minus 16 is 4. So I need 2 inches per side. So I figure if I get this to 2 inches, that'll be at 2 inches. I don't have to measure both sides. Okay, that's 1 3/4. So this might be 2 1/4. Yep, this is 2 1/4. So I just need to get, what I'm gonna do is take my soapstone, if I can find it. Here we go. Take my soapstone, put a mark here. And put a mark back here. Because I don't want to have to, you know, I'm not rushing or anything like that. But if I was in a rush, I wouldn't want to have to find these lines again. It's not a big deal, but I just don't want to, you know, just want to have to do it. So now I can slide this back and forth, knowing I'm in that line. I'm just trying to get to 2 inches. A little bit more. 2 inches there, 2 inches here, and 2. Not bad. See if I'm still at 6 1/2. Yep, not bad. And that is how I get these things lined up. If it was a circle, I would just find center. You put a mark and just line up like that. Say if this was square, this was a circle, I will go from this point, as long as this is say 20 by 20 or 24 by 24, I'll go from this point here, put a line to this point, from this point to this point, and wherever they cross in center, that's your center point on your square. And then I can, sometime I will eyeball it, or sometime I will know the diameter of my circle, and I will go from that point out here, from that point out here, out here, out here, get 4 marks, set that circle or whatever it is, tube in there, and then I can make my final adjustments with a ruler from this edge to the circle, this edge to the circle, that to the circle, that to the circle, just to get it, you know, more sure. And then once I'm sure that's where I want to be, I'll just start tacking it in. There's other ways to do it, but that's the quick way for me to do it, and that's kind of how I do it most often. And so now, all I have to do now is just start just welding it in. I would, you know, clamp it down to the table and just start tacking it all in, and that'll be pretty much how it's done. Then I'll take it from here, you know, set it on the ground, pick that piece up, have my wife hold the piece, you know, level and you know, plumb, and you know, make sure it's straight up and down and all that stuff, straight up this way and this way. And then I would just start, you know, just tacking it in. And if it's leaning one way or the other, see if I put it in this V block and it wants to lean that way in this block, I would just make sure we get it back level. And if I need to have a little gap under here somewhere to make it straight up, I'll just add a little gap under there and then just fill that gap in, you know, with the weld. I just wanted to be sure it's going straight up this way and this way. And so that's pretty much how I make, you know, bases. And that's, you know, that's just how it's done. And if I'm making a, like one of our tapered bases, I would just, you know, get my measurements, just like I did with this, measure from here to here and there to there and across, and we'll just start building it. But I think I did make a video on, I don't remember the title, but it was how we, you know, make bases. And I'll just put a thumbnail up here, just so you guys can just kind of see, you know, how it's done. All right, guys, well, that's going to do it for this one. Because I still have to drill the holes in the flat plate, and I'm thinking that since I have this all marked out and everything, I will go ahead and just drill those holes and then go ahead and put this plate on it and tack it in and everything. But I want you guys to have to sit there and watch that. But this is basically how it's done. And then once I'm finished, I'll show you guys on the next one, the finished product as I start the next project. All right, guys, well, that's going to do it for this one. And, like, subscribe, and all that YouTube-y stuff you guys know how to do. And as usual, peace out.